Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into beer from one of mine and many a craft brew enthusiasts' perennial favorite brewers, and that is Mikkeller. We've done a lot of their beers over the years, but it has been a while since I've had one. And today's is one that I did get from Tavour. Mikkeller has different brewing locations. They're headquartered in Europe, but this one was brewed at their San Diego, California facility. The specific beer is called Lifeblod. They have a lot of different versions of this beer. This is the carrot cake version. It's an Imperial Stout, clocking in at 12.6% ABV. This one has been bourbon barrel aged and has added carrots, vanilla, and cinnamon. So very much a carrot cake themed beer. We've had just a few carrot cake flavored beers that I've reviewed to date. All of them have been awesome. I'm expecting this to continue that trend. In terms of label art, it just says the name Lifeblod, gives you a description about it, and very much a carrot cake orangey colored theme on the label. So it looks great. We're going to get this cracked, and I don't expect we'll be able to get this whole beer in the glass. This bottle looks larger than this glass can hold, but we'll just start pouring. It's very dark. It's very thick. All right, we have to glug it a bit, give it a chance to form a head. Obviously going to make a bit of a mess on my table. That's okay, we'll back it off right there and let it do its thing. I don't think that head's going to last too long, so let's just get a sniff right now. Wow, yeah. This one smells quite boozy. You can definitely pick up the bourbon on the nose, and the cinnamon and the vanilla. So it's got a lot of classic underpinnings of what you might expect on a big bourbon barrel aged stout. There's the definite booziness coming from the bourbon barrel, and of course these additives, the vanilla and cinnamon, definitely play into that. You often get aromatic compounds of vanilla coming off of a bourbon barrel aged beer regardless, but it does distinctly smell of those additives. Underneath that, yes, you can get a little bit of the sense of the roastiness from the malt bill, but it is dominated by the barrel and the additions. Carrots, of course, I'm not really getting anything on the nose that smells like carrots. Not a particularly pronounced aroma. Head is actually surprisingly holding a bit longer than I anticipated, but yeah, visually it is absolutely pitch black, as you would expect. Yeah, head actually held pretty well. So I don't know if my being aggressive with the pour helped, but it's holding okay. So we got our information out of the aroma. Let's just jump right in. Sip number one. Ooh, boy. That's a big beer. That is rich, 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 rich. Very bold, very flavorful. Okay, let's talk weight and texture first. This is 12.6% ABV. It feels like a heavy beer. It's not even medium heavy, it is heavy. It definitely feels much more robust than you would guess for just 12.6. That's obviously a high ABV, but I've had many, many, many stouts in this ABV range that do not feel this weighty. It's very, very heavy when you swallow. Equally, the mouthfeel is exceptionally resistant. You can really feel just this voluminous viscosity as you agitate around the palate. It really does a great job of coating the palate as well. But it's a big, thick, heavy beer, and it feels every bit of that 12.6% ABV. Now, first impression when you swallow, it's a big burst of the underlying malt bill. That's the first thing that hit me, and it's intense roast. And then that immediately gets popped behind by the barrel accent. And very nice rum bourbon barrel. I don't know the exact barrel that they used, but it's very clearly a bourbon barrel. You get this nice light spirit sensation. You get this kind of molassesy sense and kind of caramelized sugars coming out of it, obviously the vanilla. So based on their additions plus the barrel, there's a lot in here that could be coming from the barrel and a lot that could be coming from the additions. So it's a little hard to pinpoint, what's what. But the whole flavor experience is cohesive and it works very, very well in this beer. It doesn't really matter where the flavor impact is coming from, but it's a very well put together beer. It is worth noting, and you'll notice I did not mention anything about lactose. This is not a sweet beer. It's not a milk stout. It's very rich. It's very roasty. So the flavors are popping entirely on their own from the additions, but there's no suggestion of sweetness at all in this beer. So if you're expecting like a sweet flavored carrot cake and not just a carrot cake inspired beer, you might be surprised. It's very rich. It's very roasty. And that's where I want to get to next is this malt bill. So we already talked about the intensive roast. There's a lot of nuance happening here. Notably, that big kick of molasses. There's actually a little bit of a kick of this kind of roasty, earthy underpinning with a slight bit of bitters on front. It's not pungently bitter, but you do get it there, and it's really all being driven out from just the roasty depth of this malt bill that they used in this beer. The cinnamon also comes through very, very nicely. It does pair a little bit and kind of bind with the vanilla on the front, but on kind of the back end, it actually has a much more pronounced voice to it. So it kind of opens up and lets you pick it out a bit more clearly on the back end of the sip. In terms of the carrot, yeah, I mean, they added it in here. It's carrot cake. I don't really taste anything in here that tastes like carrot any more than I smell anything in here that smells like carrot. But that aside, it's a very, very delicious beer. The general theme and spirit of a carrot cake is there. Just kind of the flavor layering, it really, really works. I really like this beer. It's a big one. I'm going to jump back in for a second sip. We'll let everything re-intensify. Then we will talk about the balance and the finish. But sip one, very good. Take two. Second sip, the barrel hit me first before the malt bill, and about 3-4 seconds is when the roasty underpinning really came through. Very clear bourbon barrel, that nice spirit sensation to it. Gets a little bit of the warming factor. The nice kick of bitters and that earthiness comes on the front side somewhere between 1 and 3 seconds, at least on my second sip. You know, everything did re-intensify. Really nice ribbons of vanilla, cinnamon. It is quite clear that it is a malt-driven beer, aside from the barrels and the additives, but it really is true to the style of a big Imperial Stout. It's a story about the malt bill. This is no different. They just decided to have fun with the style by barrel aging it and adding in some flavoring. So, the malt bill on this is exceptionally roasty. It's very earthy. It has a lot of underlying elements of char. It's one of those that does put me in mind of the kind of sensation of drinking a French roast coffee, that French roast coffee bean. It doesn't taste of coffee, but it's that same sensation. It's extremely roasted. Charry, though, this has no smoky underpinnings at all. So no coffee, no smoke, just extreme char and earthiness and roastiness. It's a very big, bold, in-your-face malt bill presence that comes out. There's also kind of baker's chocolate accents that come in the background as well. So in terms of the balance, I really like what they did with this. It's leading with the malt bill. The barrel is quite present, both in the aroma profile as well as the flavor profile. The cinnamon comes through clearly. The vanilla comes through clearly. Now, the carrots, you know, look, I didn't get carrots on the nose, carrots on the flavor profile, but in a big beer like this, no lactose or anything, I mean, I didn't figure that it would make itself super present, but they kept true to the theme of a carrot cake and they threw it in there. You know, not a strike on it, it's just, it is what it is. But the general balance, I think, overall is very, very good. Everything has its own voice, and you get all these nice kind of nuanced layers and ribboning of flavors coming in and out of each other, and that works all the way as well through the decay on the beer. So the finish, it's quite long. It is a big, high ABV Imperial Stout that's got flavor additives in it, and it's been barrel aged. So yeah, you would probably expect a beer like that to have a long finish. This one does indeed. Very, very wet, very round to the end. It is extremely thick, so it does a very good job of coating the flavors on the palate. On the end of the finish, which takes roughly a minute and a half to get there, what you're left with is an intense sense of roast, a subtle suggestion of the rum barrels, and a whisper of that cinnamon on the end. That's kind of where it ends. And some of that underpinning of the baker's chocolate that you start to get kind of midway, between the intensity peak of the flavor profile, that also lingers on the back of the finish as well, and it has just a very natural decay until it's just gone and you realize, oh, I can't taste anything anymore. Very, very good stout here, guys. Mikkeller always does a great job. This is another great example of what they do best. I am a big fan of this one. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, come up with my scores. When we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Mikkeller Brewing Company's Lifeblood, the Carrot Cake edition. It's an Imperial Stout that clocked in at 12.6% ABV, nice and high. This one was bourbon barrel aged and had added carrots, cinnamon, and vanilla. Mikkeller is headquartered in Europe, but they have a brewing op in the States. This was done at their San Diego, California facility. So this was a very, very good beer. Only the second or third carrot cake flavored beer I've ever had. The priors that I've had have all had a lactose addition, so it did taste, remarkably like actually eating a slice of the cake. This went the alternate path. No lactose, keep true to the style, but have carrot cake flavor infusion into the beer. An inspiration of carrot cake. And I absolutely loved it, guys. This was one of those beers that I suspected would be good when I saw it in Tavour. That's why I grabbed it. I've always had great luck with everything from Mikkeller, and this was just another winner. Going through the scores, if we start at the very tip top, the aroma. This was a very nice, very pronounced aroma. Indeed, everything that I expected I would smell did come through on the aroma profile. I would have liked a little more pronounced aroma from the cinnamon. I didn't expect to smell carrot, not a huge pungent aroma, and indeed I didn't. But, it was very close to perfection, had a very nice aroma to it, as it were, and really did put you in the mind of carrot cake. The aroma, I gave a 9 out of 10. For the taste on this beer was fantastic. I really liked that it led with this rich, deep, roasty malt bill. Really, the only thing I could say on this one, kind of with the aroma, I also would have liked a little more cinnamon to pop through on this. And, of course, the carrots I couldn't taste in the beer either. I didn't expect to. It is what it is. I'm not really knocking the beer for that. But both on the flavor, the taste, and the aroma, I would have liked just a touch more cinnamon to come through. It was there, but you had to work for it. The taste, I also docked 1 point. I gave it a 9 out of 10. For the body on this was very heavy. 12.6, not a low ABV, but I've had many significantly higher ABV beers that were not even coming close to touching the breadth and weight of this beer. The body does get a perfect 10 out of 10. For the mouthfeel, very similar story to the body. It was extremely thick, extremely viscous. Far more than your average 12.6 ABV beer. The mouthfeel also gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the finish, this was a big, bold, high ABV, flavor added, barrel-aged Imperial Stout, and you would expect the finish to be long, and it was indeed quite long, and very, very nice how it worked out to the end of the decay. The finish also gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the head and retention, this one did a pretty good job. Definitely above average. It got out of the way a little bit quicker than I would have liked, but for a port at home, absolutely above average. The head and the retention gets a 7 out of 10. For the appearance, black as midnight. As expected, it gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the balance, we're going to harken back to the same kind of theme I touched on the aroma and the flavor profile. I would have liked just a bit more presence from that cinnamon to balance it out just a little bit better across the additives. But a minor nitpick, the balance gets a 9 out of 10. Feeling/intangible, subjectively, I absolutely loved it. Perfect 10 out of 10. Then finally, as an example of the style, this is just a great version of how to take inspiration from an existing dessert and to take a beer style, pair it, and then also to add the barrel aging into the mix. This was a winner, guys. Absolutely fantastic beer. A big, big beer that was done well with a deft hand. Mikkeller knows what they're doing. This was another perfect example of that. And as an example of the style, I did give it a perfect 10 out of 10, which does bring the total score on Mikkeller Brewing Company's Lifeblod Carrot Cake Edition to a 94 out of 100. Guys, absolute winner of a beer. I don't know how often they put out the different releases. I've been sitting on this one for a couple months, so I don't know if they're actually still selling it in the marketplace, actively brewing it, but you might be able to find one, possibly from Tavour. That's where I got mine. If not, check Craft Shack, Total Wine, your local bottle shop, trade forums. Somebody's going to have a bottle you can try. Absolutely delicious. If you're a fan of big Imperial Stouts or carrot cake in general, this is one I would definitely try to find. Folks, that is today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications. Hit that bell icon. It is right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.